All right, Dave, ready? First of all, you've got a couple new guys joining this team. First with Amed Rosario. He is here. You have him out there today. What have you seen from him, getting to know him? What's kind of the plan as to how you see this acquisition playing out?
It's interesting. It's certainly a big upgrade for our ball club. He's a guy that's playing every day, and so heck of a ball player, an even better person from what I hear. So my short dealings with him, I'm really excited to get to know him. I got him at shortstop today because he's played primarily shortstop in the last couple of years. But the thought is, it just makes for an easier transition for him as he's come today, new ball club. But the plan is for him to get more acclimated to second base, to play some center field, and for me, I think upgrading our lineup versus left. And so he'll see a brunt majority of his time versus left-handed pitching, and he'll come into games when a right-handed starter starts, and we kind of bring in our reinforcements. So he understands kind of how we do things, and he's been good versus right-handed pitching, but he's been a killer versus lefties, and that's something that we want to capture.
Lance, Lynn, and Joe Kelly, they haven't had the best of years, Dave. How do you believe that you guys can help them be better?
Yeah, I think that obviously the people in Los Angeles know Joe, and I would argue that his stuff is even better than it was than when he was with us. The velocity, the curveball, all that stuff. And I think for Joe specifically, there's been some on the IL off. And I also think that, he's a guy like most players that when they're in a winning environment, they thrive. And so I know Joe's happy to be back in Los Angeles. As far as Lance, I've heard nothing but good things about him as far as the compete, the preparedness. I think a little bit that's where he's a guy that takes the baseball, he goes deep into games, and victim of sort of the circumstance. I just feel that getting in this environment, playing meaningful games will bring out the best in him.
Do you feel like your pitching coaches will steer him in a different direction than what he's been using as far as his repertoire in Chicago?
I think what's going to happen is a conversation and trying to talk to Lance in the sense of what he feels has worked, what hasn't worked, things that for us to keep an eye on. But I do think that the home runs that he's given up, I think that number will balance out as far as number of, and just kind of sequencing and just kind of talk through what's the best way to get guys out. There's been a little unluckiness in my view as far as watching some of the videos, but we'll see.
Would he pitch the first game of the Oakland series, considering he just pitched a few days ago?
I'm not sure. I think the plan is for him to get here at some point over the weekend and have that conversation. So I know Julio's slated, I think, for Tuesday. So we got to kind of talk through that and see what's best for both guys.
Do you know who's going to be replaced in the rotation yet?
No, not yet. I think that fortunately we still have some time to kind of figure out what direction we go.
You talked coming into the week just about wanting to raise the floor. I mean, these four guys, for their strengths, they're all like native WAR players this year. Too much in like one analytic, but do you kind of feel like these guys, despite some of the struggles they've had this year elsewhere, have raised the floor from where you were coming into this week?
I would argue we've raised the floor and the ceiling. I think that with Kike, there's a familiarity. There's something that we feel that we could tap into and essentially get them opportunities versus left, use the versatility on defense. And I think that with Joe, familiarity, and I mentioned the culture part of it, I think that there's some things with Lance, the sequencing, the unluckiness, all that stuff. I think there's certainly, with his strikeout rates, there's certain things that can raise that ceiling. And then with Amed, I think that his buy-in, his athleticism. He's now the fastest player on our ball club, so that speed element, the ability to move around the diamond, to lengthen our ball club versus left-handed pitching has raised the ceiling. So I feel great about those moves.
I understand like those acquiring guys, expected stats there, but for you like managing day to day, how do you sort of balance like the actual results versus the expected numbers, especially for some of these guys you're kind of acquiring and integrating?
That's probably the most fun part and the most challenging. As we sit here today, James Alman, who has had a great second half, is not playing versus a left-hander. And so just understanding, appreciating that I use the whole roster and be ready when called upon. I think for us, Fabian, is trying to put guys in the best possible chance to have success, give them some runway, and, expect it to work out. But, as guys get runway, you want to kind of see how it can play out as we look out into August and September, where you're more kind of figuring out and convicted on how you're going to run guys out there each night.
Are you looking at this as you guys have kind of built a pretty platoon heavy plan now the rest of the year? Or are you hoping some of these guys emerge more as everyday guys? How do you see the best version of this roster kind of playing out the next couple months?
Well, I think that certain things can happen, but I do feel confident in saying that we have 5 guys in the lineup that we feel are platoon neutral. And, so then you're looking at essentially 7 or 8 other guys that on a given night we feel that we can match up in a platoon advantage. Where in a short sample, James in particular has shown to be pretty neutral. But I think everyone else, I feel good that, kind of matching them up is probably the best thing going forward. Could it change? Absolutely.
And you mentioned kind of Alman being neutral there, but obviously if you get Kike in center field, like you did today, and then Rosario maybe in center field, how much does this kind of impact his playing time?
Yeah, it already has. But I just feel that he can still be available tonight, which he will. And there's just the managing part of it, of trying to use your whole roster and figure out best place to put guys. And if Kike is going to be here or Ahmed's going to be here on this roster and not playing against a lefty, for me right now it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And so, but I feel very comfortable in having a guy like James that you can plug in against a left-hander and feel like you're not giving up much at all.
And then against a righty, at shortstop, how do you see that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think I think the way we've done it, I obviously see Miguel Rojas, and then I think I feel good with CT there. And so if Amed gets back over there, that could potentially happen. So I think we got some good options.
Does this pretty much rule out Mookie playing the infield?
No, I can see Mookie playing second base versus right.
What's your understanding of Rosario's defensive struggles, and are you sacrificing some of the left side defense with him and Max?
Well, this is tonight. It's one. I haven't seen much. I really haven't, Mike. So last year, I think it was. I've heard it was pretty solid at short. This year, it's taken a step back. I don't know the answer. So tonight, the reasoning behind it is I want to make him as comfortable as possible in his transition here. But going forward, I think it's going to be more of Miguel Rojas and Chris Taylor.
Hey, was there a chance you guys had when I started pitching?
I think there's always a chance. There's still time on the clock. I think we've raised the floor, raised the ceiling. But until the clock runs out, I think we're all still trying to find ways to get better.
How much of a factor is the young guys maybe innings limits? A guy like Bobby Miller coming off the shoulder injury, I think the second innings right now.
I don't think that that's in the calculus. Certainly could be, but I think that with Emmett and Bobby, I don't think that that's too big of a factor.
Are you getting back another one, and the guy that's on the injured list, Kershaw, next week?
So Clayton, as I understand it, is supposed to throw a simulated game tomorrow, and it's going to be, start with an inning. It might be 2 innings. I just don't know where it's going to be, and I think for us, just getting him to face some hitters is going to be a good thing. And once he passes that marker, we'll have another conversation.
Dave, you got to watch Angela Cruz's debut back in Cincinnati. Just what are your early impressions on him and how he's performed?
He is as toolsy as a player in the big leagues. The way how he carried himself, the poise on the field, on a major league field, so early in his career was remarkable. He's a human highlight film. I like watching the highlights much more than in real time, firsthand. But we've got him firsthand for 3 days, so we're going to try to contain him. But what a special talent. It's good for the game of baseball.
Dave, just looking, right a minute ago right here, you've got Miguel Rojas really talking to Amed and being that support system kind of help some of these newer faces into this clubhouse. How much of a benefit is it knowing how you've been able to have impact on guys who've been trying to get back on track, and then you bring in some other ones who have success but are looking to kind of maybe up a level?
It's incredible, and I think that for us, just really being mindful of who we bring into this clubhouse, and from Miguel, as we're watching right now, to Jason Hayward, to Bob Guerin right now, our coach, talking to Amed, and just trying to make the transition as seamless and as easy as possible. And everyone here is trying to win. And there's not a guy on our roster that doesn't want to be an everyday guy, and I respect that. But when you have so much talent in the room, there's got to be some give and take, some unselfishness. And for me, every single one of these guys is bought in, not only to help themselves, but to help their teammates. So that's, for me, it's made this year pretty special.